What's up, centimeters? It's your boy Megameters, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of a behind the scenes video for my recent album Mouth Meters. And you might be asking, why are you making this video? Is it really justified to have a behind the scenes for an album that has like 150 views? I would say this is more for my records than anything else. I have all these files sitting on my computer. I want to get rid of them. And by putting them in this video, they'll be here regardless. And then also, it's an excuse to get all this info in one place, and if my videos ever do pop off, this will be helpful to go back to. And then also, if I ever do put this on a professional portfolio, this does talk about my process, so that'll be helpful too. If you're someone professional reviewing this, hi, nice to meet you. Talking about the format a little bit, I'm going to be winging it all on this slideshow because I don't want to pay an editor, and I'd rather do other things like play League of Legends than edit it myself. I'm going to talk about the album, how it came to be, every song that I made, and also my process going into it. And also I'm going to be talking about the songs in chronological order, so not where they are in the album, but rather when they were produced. And the message that started it all was August 29th of 2022. I made my first mashup in a while, and I just kind of threw it out there. Didn't really have any plans at this point. I just kind of made it. It was Look at EVA Now. It was the song that started everything. And then I kind of made a couple other one-off mashups throughout the next month. And so there was one on September 11th and there was one on the 15th that were just kind of like video game soundtracks with like hip-hop vocals from rap songs that I liked. And about 35 days after I made that first mashup, I decided and committed to making a full album. And I wanted to make it in the style of Neil Cicierega because he has a really defined like album structure. And I felt that that would be a good kind of scaffolding to start out with. I did say it was loosely based off of his work because he does have a bunch of differences between me and him. For one, I use a lot more modern music, a lot of rap, hip hop, and he tends to use more like 80s, 90s music. And then I also didn't have some of the techniques that he's done. He uses a lot of like word splicing, and I'm not experienced enough for that. And so I decided not to include some of that. But overall, it was some of my inspiration, and it did go into the name, so I feel like it's worth mentioning. And you might be thinking, what are this guy's qualifications for making an album? I have no formal music experience. I didn't even take like an instrument class in middle high school. I haven't taken a music class in college. I've just been in the SoundCloud community for like 8 years listening to these mashups. And I'd like to think from listening to so much of this, like I have a bit of an ear for what I like and what I don't like. And between like all of my playlists, I've kind of designated them as the circles of hell. And as you go down, like the mashups get more and more crazy. Between like my likes in these playlists, there are like 2,200 songs or so. And they go back a whole bunch of years, at least like those 8 years that I mentioned. And so I've been in here for a while and I was like, I'm just going to brute force it and try my hand at it. And I kind of just threw out a track list at the beginning. I had a couple songs that I was going to mess around with. Number 6 just has words. I wanted to do something to emulate Neil's word splicing style, like an advertisement, but you'll see that didn't exactly work out for me. And around November 17th, I decided I was going to commit to this release date, regardless of what I had. This was the end of finals week for me. It was when I was going to go home for the break. And I just wanted to ship something out, have a release party with my friends. And so those last couple weeks were a bit of a time crunch trying to get that out on time. And this was what the release party looked like. I did mess around with printing some of the stuff too. My friends gave me permission to post this photo, but as you can see, they are enjoying the music that's playing right now. We also did open a bunch of Prosecco. I opened like 7 bottles and everyone's like, you're crazy for opening so much wine. And I'm like, we're going to finish it. We have to. The album deserves it. And so that was a lot of fun. Going into the album itself, I mixed it entirely in Audacity. Some people are saying, yikes, how did you do that? I've been considering getting like an Ableton license or something to have like actual audio software, but it served my purposes so far. Almost all the graphics were made by me. The two on this screen were commissioned by artists. I did pay them to come out with this art. They did an amazing job. And I compiled the video for YouTube using Windows Video Editor. So if any of the timestamps are a little bit off for the songs, that's why. I trialed and errored probably for like 4 hours or so trying to get things to line up. I think the timing in the video editor isn't exact to the timing in real time. And so I had to like estimate, and yeah, it was a whole hassle. I wanted to use Premiere, but the size of the images wasn't working. I made the images like exact like widescreen size, and it just imported weird, and I didn't want to mess with it. So I'll deal with the songs being a couple seconds off. And I've had a lot of people ask me, how do you come up with these ideas? And it's generally one of these three. Sometimes it just kind of comes to me. I don't know what to say. I'm just like, oh, these two songs would work together. And then I kind of work it out, and turns out they do. Sometimes it's based off of the name. So like, we didn't start this fire on the left. It's this fire and we didn't start the fire. It was just so easy to put the names together. And then I kind of made the song after that to kind of fit the idea. And in some cases, I would even lab out a song. So like for the NA Worlds run on the right, that was more like I had Fall Guys instrumentals that I wanted to use. And I was kind of looking through my Spotify playlist, like which songs would work with it. And in the end, I picked out the song that I thought had a lot of promise, tried it out, and then I would actually make the mashup from there. But there's no clear-cut answer on like how you come up with an idea. I think once you start like systematically coming up with ideas, that's when it kind of kills your creativity. You just have to let it come to you. And actually making the songs, first, one of the hardest things was acquiring the samples for songs. Sometimes someone would be nice and just post like the professional studio acapella of a song, which made things a lot easier. Sometimes people would run it through a program to separate it, but then there are some kind of audio artifacts, which you can hear in some of the songs. I've heard since then that you can use like a equalizer function to kind of lower that a little bit, but it's still not perfect. And so actually acquiring the instrumentals and the vocals you can use is a bit of a process itself. And then what I would do is match up the speed and the tempo to make sure that the songs are playing at the same pace, and then align the spacing so that the songs are like starting at the same time. They have like a similar beat. And then lastly, adjust the pitch, because generally when you change the speed, it either like pitches something up really high or really low if you're making it faster or slower. And then lastly, I would add in any extra flair. So if that's like any sound effects, like Final Fantasy spell noises or like objections or whatever, I would just kind of sprinkle those in last when the rest of the song is done. And thumbnails, I just did a bunch of dumb references. Honestly, I don't think I spent more than 15 minutes on like any of these. I just kind of cobbled them together, what I thought would be funny. And again, there were the two that were commissioned, but other than that, they were all on my own. Ordering of songs was pretty important to me just because I was making an album and I wanted to make it a full experience. And so I thought a lot about how I was going to order the songs to try to make it fit my vision as much as possible. And so I tried to make it more of a soft entry point. And so you have Distance, which is kind of like this nice guitar song. And then you have Reposted in the Wrong, Rasputin. That was kind of like just well made. I guess the lyrics are a little bit vulgar, but like the Rasputin's super recognizable, so it's easier for people to get into. And then like We Didn't Start This Fire and Hardest and Softest Songs in Existence are kind of relying on like more popular songs that people would recognize. And then as you get later, it's like more weeb stuff, more like old video games, some of the stuff that's a little closer to my heart, but also a bit harder to get into, which is why if you've reached that point, like, congrats, you get to listen to these, but I don't want to have those at the beginning and scare people away from some of the nicer songs. I'm going to be calling them nicer songs because they're easier to listen to for people. And I wanted it to also have a bit of a progression. So at the beginning, you have some of the more like pop songs. And then you have like kind of video game stuff in the middle, a bit more, I don't want to say like dark, but it's a different mood. And then at the end, you kind of have like the more anime sort of upbeat to finish it off. And actually going into the songs, the song that started it all, Look at EVA Now, I was just kind of watching Evangelion at the time. I hadn't watched the show before, and it just kind of popped in my head. I love the decisive battle. The scene where it comes up for the first time when they're literally rerouting all of Japan's power to fire a cannon, that just really imprinted in my head. And I don't know, one day a thought came up like, hey, this would work with Look at Me Now. And I don't have enough music theory to explain why I thought it would be like that. Maybe something with like the chord progression or the way the songs go. But I threw it together and it worked pretty well. I did come back and polish it a lot later, as with a lot of my other early songs. But I think it probably turned out the best early on compared to some of the other songs I'm going to talk about. The second song I made was Praise the Canyon. I love Praise the Lord as a song and as a mashup song, just because the beats are light enough where you can put it with pretty much anything. I also love old Final Fantasy games, and Final Fantasy VII is just iconic. And it wasn't the Cosmo Canyon, which ended up being the background, was not the first Final Fantasy VII song I tried. I think I was trying one of the battle songs, but it just didn't work. And so then I sped up Praise the Canyon, or not, Cosmo Canyon, and the rest is history. Third song I made was Forest. It kind of sounded like garbage originally. Kendrick is really high-pitched for it. I actually did try to turn his voice into a MIDI, and I'll probably upload that, because I was like, oh, if I make his voice sound more like a video game or 8-bit, it might fit better. But it was just kind of jarring and hard to listen to. But I think it's entertaining in its own right. And the thumbnail took me like 5 seconds. I literally just took like a PNG of Gino, put it over Kendrick, and I didn't do anything else with that. I think it serves its purpose. And then finally, not a video game instrumental with hip hop. There's I Bweed It Out. It was inspired by a song called Waiting for the Hamster Dance, which is waiting for the end to come and hamster dance. Unfortunately, the original's gone, which was really disappointing. Someone made another version, but it isn't quite as good. Maybe one day I'll try to remake it or something. There's also similar Linkin Park and hamster dance songs. It's kind of like a mini genre at this point, but one of them is called Hamster Faint, which I really enjoyed. I tried to use Numb at first because I was like, oh, what are popular Linkin Park songs? But I think like the long screaming didn't fit the cadence of hamster dance as much, so I ended up dropping that. And fun fact, this was the first song I had that was blocked by copyright. It was Hamster Dance that flagged it. So it's kind of funny, viral song that came out like, 15 years ago, 20 years ago? I feel old. I guess they're still protecting it pretty strongly. And so I had to change the pitch of Hamster Dance by it's like a semitone or something. And so it was a little bit deeper. I forget if I put a different pitch version, but funny that was the first one, and it was Hamster Dance. I'm posting all these pop songs, and then Hamster Dance is the one to trip it, excuse me. And then I started on my rap debut. This was an idea that was cooking for a while. I was listening to You Know Miles at the time, who's pretty much this rapper that goes like, this is the sound of a robot. And so very, very silly, just like taking time to like announce a noise and then make the noise. Very distinct style. The original song was kind of unhinged. I think I had a line where like, I've been single since high school or something. And I was just like, I also had an Obama impression, which I think I personally don't have any issues with. I was more doing it because I'm like, oh, look, I can do an Obama impression. But just in case some people were weirded out by it, I did end up cutting that. It got replaced with the sleeping line. It's the sound I make when anyone else tries to rap, but they don't know how to rap, which honestly I think is funnier than just like, haha, Obama. But little fun fact that was in there originally. And then I made Distance. I needed like a nice song or some sort of introduction. All the vocals had an emphasis on units of measurement. And so like, hey there, Delilah's like, you're far away, but I still love you. And then 1,000 miles obviously is 1,000 miles. And then at the end, there's the 500 miles, a lot of miles. Um, I figured it would fit with the whole meters theme. I guess Jack Johnson Upside Down doesn't focus on units of measurement, but it just kind of fit. And originally I made this thumbnail on the left with Curious George, and I just kind of put like a scale over it, and I'm like, eh. It was giving the video like terrible visibility. It was a bit too shitposty, I guess, for what the song was. And so I decided to cut that out. And then I whipped the one on the right up, and it honestly looks so much better. It actually fits really well. Like, for the amount of thought and effort I put into it, like, it turned out honestly better than I could have imagined. And as you know, like, the whole Streets thing is super popular, huge nostalgia bait, and so I figured that might be better for, like, introducing people to the album, and rather than, like, haha, stretched out monkey. The seventh song I made was Reposted in the Wrong Rasputin Redux. And the reason why it's called Redux is because I originally made this mashup 5 years ago. I made it called You Rasputin in the Wrong Neighborhood. And it has like 600 plays today, which compared to a lot of my songs means it's really successful. And it just kind of fit together really well. I don't know what I was doing when I first started out, but I had like weird spacing. And then I removed the weird spacing for this version, and it just kind of plays beginning to end, which was really surprising. And so this took like 15 minutes to make, pretty easy. And I played a lot of Just Dance 2 when I was younger, and Rasputin is like one of the most famous songs. Sometimes I'll bring like Just Dance to gaming events, and everyone's always like, I want to play Rasputin. And so it's crazy how much that song is like evolved from Just Dance 2. But I felt like I wanted to do the old song justice. If I have an idea and I have improved skills, then I want to like improve it and make another version of it. And so it just made sense for me to take something that was decent at the beginning and then really like improve on it. So that's how this song was made. And then We Didn't Start This Fire, actually my most popular song as of now. I think it hit 1,000 plays on SoundCloud, which again might not be a lot for a lot of people, but for me that's like... the original post is more popular than the album version as of now. The album version, I hope, is a little bit better. I did make it... I added like more of the vocals from This Fire into it, so it goes a bit harder at the end. But I think it's carried by the name. Like, I came up with the name We Didn't Start This Fire, and it just fit between We Didn't Start the Fire and This Fire. And then also Lucy in the thumbnail is pretty clickbait. Like, I don't know what to say. It's Lucy. It's Lucy Cyberpunk. And then Shingeki no Otaku. In my notes, it was just called Weeb Shit, and I wanted to create like some kind of nightcore mashup. I thought the title was pretty funny because like Shingeki no Kyojin is Attack on Titan, but there's no Attack on Titan featured in here. It's just Sword Art Online and Jujutsu Kaisen. And so I thought that was kind of a stroke of genius on the title. Which it roughly means like Advance of the Otakus or Attack of the Otakus. And this was the first song to give me a copyright strike. And the difference between that and getting blocked by copyright is block is like automatically detected by the system. There's no long-term punishments. They're just like, you can't post that. But this song was up for like a week, and then it got manually requested to be taken down because of Crossing Field from Sword Art Online. And so I was kind of worried for a little bit because I'm like, if I get 2 more strikes, my account's over. That would suck for my playlist, which I've spent like years building up. But ultimately, it ended up working out. And I only have that 1 strike. I don't really know what happened with it. But if I get a 2nd strike, I might be a lot more careful and might start unlisting stuff. But in terms of making a song that was weeb shit, I feel like I accomplished exactly what I wanted to. It's like kind of trashy. The thumbnail's trashy, but it's like kind of bangs too. I've had people enjoy it, and so I'm really happy with it. 10th song I made, this is the halfway point. This was Closer to the Stars. It's a pretty good mashup, but the lyrics throw people off because it's Closer by 9 Inch Nails. Like, very vulgar lyrics, but like it's catchy. People would enjoy it. Messenger from the Stars was the A-Train meme. I haven't actually watched The Boys, but I've seen all the memes where it's like boom, boom, boom. Yeah, mixed pretty smoothly, and I think probably one of the silliest thumbnails I have. just because like my honest reaction. I thought that was really funny. And then I did my best to Photoshop on the letters, but I didn't quite get the gradient on them. But it has like the right level of shit posting for what I was hoping for. And then the hardest song in existence. I had the hardest song in existence idea for a while, and I was literally going around messaging my friends, like, what are the hardest songs that you know? And I was getting things like Cash In, Cash Out, Don't Come Outside Because the Gang Outside, stuff like that. But honestly, it was kind of quiet at first, so I had to go back and make it go harder. And I think after that, it sounded better. But before, it was like kind of quiet, and for the hardest song in existence, it really didn't go that hard. So that was when I had to go back and polish. And also pretty funny was the softest song in existence, the complete opposite of the other one, and a song that really has most of its value because of the hardest song in existence. And I was like, I'm making the softest song in existence. What do I want to fill it with? And then Jue Hua Piao Piao. That was kind of a fan favorite. I go to university in California, and there's a pretty big Asian population, a lot of people who are Chinese or part Chinese. And so when that came on, people were like, oh my God, I can't believe you've done this. But when I was trying to mix in See You Again, that kind of gave me some grief just because the cadence of it is kind of hard to work with and it wasn't mixing perfectly. And so I probably had to redo the song or like the end part of the song a couple times. And as for Final Fantasy IX, that's where the other part of the song comes from. One of my favorite games of all time. I love Melodies of Life. If I were to meet my untimely demise right now and had to be lowered into a grave, I would probably want Melodies of Life to play. And then Mixed Signals, not really a descriptive name, which is unfortunate, but I couldn't really think of a common thing. I was just like, I want you back is like, I want you back. Please come back to me. I want to be in a relationship again or whatever. And then the Dua Lipa is like, one kiss is all it takes to fall in love with me. And so it's kind of like different love songs. And so I was like, okay, they're both talking about love, but it's like different types of love or whatever. And so I kind of came up with Mixed Signals, which is clean, but not really descriptive. And this was the first song that I labbed out. And so I wanted to use the One Kiss instrumental just because it's kind of clean, can work with a lot of stuff. And I went through my Spotify playlist, and then I Want You Back came up. Also from Just Dance 2. And I was kind of like, okay, I'll work with that. And I wanted to make another nice song, one that wasn't harder to listen to. But one of the problems with this song is that the part where they're like, I want you back, wasn't included in the acapella. And so my options were either to record it from the actual song, which I ended up doing, and it sounded kind of bad, honestly, or try to ad-lib it in myself. And so I can't sing to match the Jackson 5, and so I decided to paste in the I Want You Back, and it kind of works, but I wish it were just included in the original acapella, because it's kind of like mixing two songs between the actual vocals and then the ones that you're grabbing for the I Want You Back. And then there was Florida Weather Report. This is like 2/3 through by now. This one took about like 3 weeks. It was a work in progress for a while. The idea was kind of just like, you have Hydrogen, which is from Hotline Miami. That's the background. And then Sean Paul talking about the temperature. Okay, weather related. And then Will Smith and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure came afterwards. I think Will Smith because I needed to fill out like 5 minutes for the Hydrogen background. And the Sean Paul definitely works a little bit better, but I think I made the Will Smith work fine with it. And if you look closely at the thumbnail on the right, you can see there's kind of like a prison. I tried to make it Stone Ocean Prison, JoJo's reference. Other than that, it's just like other things that characterize Florida. And quote from one of my friends, as a past Floridian, I can verify it as something I would hear playing through speakers in a high school gym. And so I guess I got that one. I've never lived in Florida, but maybe you've had a similar experience. I don't know. And then there was NA Worlds Run. Represents North America's sad run through League of Legends Worlds. It started with the Fall Guys instrumental, and I kind of labbed it out, and Ignite worked well enough. The background kind of clashed. I was expecting to work with just the vocals for Ignite, but I realized that so much of Ignite is like the background of it. And so that was kind of hard mixing up those two beats together. There might have been like clashing bass lines in the end. And the drop was goofy AF, but I thought that was okay because NA really fumbled the ball, so I thought it was fine if I like fumbled the song, you know? And so there are like 2 points where it's supposed to drop, and you're like, okay, here comes the Ignite drop, and then the first time it just skips past it, and the second time Penis Music comes on. I forget what the name of the actual song for Penis Music is, but that's what it's informally called. And that was just kind of how it finished off, and I'm like, it's goofy enough, it's entertaining, I'll keep it. And getting the last couple songs, this one was inspired by Fall Out Boy Sings the Wrong Song, which was a very similar idea of take the instrumental of one artist's song and put it with the vocals of another. And I was doing this because I needed another nice song to fill it out. I had a bunch of hip-hop rap, and I needed something that was kind of different. And fun fact about this song, the guitar vocals were ad-libbed by me. And so when he's like, down, don't, but down, down, I ended up doing that because that wasn't included in the acapella either. And the thumbnail was commissioned. In the bottom middle, that was the sketch that I gave originally. And then on the right was the finished result from Mocha Coral. And he's done like some kind of psychedelic, very colorful art. So I thought it would be a perfect fit. And he absolutely nailed it. I love the little kind of Easter eggs on there. Like there's like a little dead fish, and there's Among Us on his nose, and like peace sign on his chin. And so just really, really high quality work. I couldn't have asked for anything better, honestly. And then 1984, sad to say this was the problem child of the album. I ended up having to remake the entire song, like the entire song. I originally had it to Axel F, which is the Beverly Hills Cop theme, but it just wasn't working. And so I changed like the background, and I think the end result was really cool. I commissioned the album cover from Shushi Kate, which also came out really good. And so I'm like, okay, now I have to make a really good song to justify commissioning the album cover. And it's not perfect, but I think it really conveyed the 1984 well. This was probably like the most creative song I made, I think. And this is the song I'll like show boomers. And so like I wanted to show my parents some of my album, but I can't show them like Closer to the Stars or whatever, where they're talking about like sex. And so I showed them this because it's a bunch of 80s songs and they'll get the references. Fun fact, my grandparents asked to see my album, and I was like, no way, it's not happening. I just had to be like, I'm sorry, you wouldn't understand it. I hate to pull that card, but like my grandparents, there's no way. There are people like a year or two older than me who don't understand this. So. And then number 18 was the finale. I love Ace Attorney. I played through great Ace Attorney Chronicles all the way through. Phenomenal games. And I needed a finale that was like long enough. And so I was like, I'm going to make this shit like 7 minutes long. I'm going to make it 3 parts. Just to kind of close everything off. And Bad and Boujee is just long enough just because you have all the different rappers with their verses. You have like Offset, you have Migos. Sorry, Offset might be in Migos. I don't know them well enough. But either way, you have the different rappers saying their respective lines. And that makes it so that you can section it off into different parts. I did recycle some lines at the end, but it's still like 5 minutes of vocals. And I don't know how many people paid attention to the video, but I did have 3 separate thumbnails. In the middle one, I added the chains on, and then for the final one, I changed the gradient background. And that's the main characters from Ace Attorney Chronicles getting dripped out. Bad and Boujee, you know how it is. And then the last songs I made were the intermissions. These were kind of like the one-off jokes. One Piece was just super easy. I actually read a lot of One Piece after dropping the album, so now I appreciate it more. But before, it was just like all the One Piece memes, people shaking hands, standing like this. And it was just kind of like the silly joke. I was like, can we get much higher? And then the answer is yes. And then I changed the pitch up a little bit higher until it's like Alvin and the Chipmunks. And it transitioned well into anime because I was like the anime section after. And so I was just like, yeah, this works. The alphabet ended up being more fleshed out than I thought it would be, just because I had to find 26 different song references. And the kind of story behind this is I'm in an apartment complex where there's a daycare below me, which is legal in the state of California, I guess. And the children are loud. I've been woken up to them, and they'll play like Cocomelon on the speakers. And so I'd like to think that I vented my frustration with them through the song by forcing everyone else to listen to Cocomelon. And most of the references were pretty good. I think H and Q were the ones I struggled with the most. H is like, all I want is to live amongst the H2O. It was some like Australian mermaid show. There was like a XXX Temptation song about H2O, but it kind of went too hard. Like just a lot of noise. And then Q was just a random Cold War Kids song. I do like Cold War Kids as a band, but I needed something where they said Q, and that worked fine enough. Again, like this is the last song I'm working on. I wanted to finish and ship it out. And so I just put those in and then ship the song out. But other than that, I was happy with the references I put. Some of them are more recognizable than others, honestly. And my only regret with this song is I put it after my rap debut. And so you have two kind of trashy songs right next to each other. I worry that might have drawn some people away, but I couldn't switch it with One Piece because One Piece leads right into the anime part. And so I wouldn't really have had another place to put this song in the album if not there. And that's all of the songs in chronological order. If there are any of them that were surprising, leave it down in the comments. You don't have to do that, but it would be kind of funny if you did. My next steps, though, one is working on my second album, Meter Mouths, and the joke is that it's reversed, so the order of the songs is going to be reversed, and there's going to be a spiritual successor to every song. I don't know when that's going to come out. It would be cool to have it done by like springtime, so that would be in like 6 months, but we'll see. And then I'm also trying to put in a new quality standard for music. I'm trying to get feedback from like other SoundCloud mashup artists. I know Crypto Digital has been kind enough to reach out to me and give me some feedback. I have to work a lot with keying up songs properly because now that I'm listening through my album, I'm catching that things are off key. And I also need to improve visibility of the songs I have now and of the album. Because I was focused more on making it an experience from beginning to end, but I need to try to market the songs so that the algorithm's more likely to pick them up. My goal isn't to become like a super popular celebrity or anything like that. I just want to find an audience for my songs. And like it's gotten some traction, but it's mostly among my friend group. So I'm hoping that one day, songs will catch on and people will start discovering some of the work I've made. And I might work on a couple songs outside of the albums, because if all the work I do is being dictated by the structure of an album, that could make it like less visible. And then lastly, I do want to remake Mouth Meters and polish it up one day. I think it's a little too soon to make changes to it now, but because I set a date for myself and finished it by that date, there were some things I didn't polish as much as I would have. And even now, like I've improved since making the album. And so there are some things I would change. But I think, that's if I stay in making these songs for a while, then I can kind of polish them up. And, maybe I'll make a second version, which bops even harder than the original. Either way, thanks for watching. I'm surprised if you made it this far. It was a lot of information. But hopefully it was cool learning about some of the behind the scenes stuff. And if I ever get popular and you're watching this because Mouth Meters is famous, congratulations to myself, I guess.